Let's catch up with our guy, Elliotte Friedman, NHL Network insider. So let's go further on the Holland hiring. How did this all end up happening? How did he become a target?
You know, I think he was always a target, Keith. Bob Nicholson, at the beginning, I think if Ken Holland was going to be in this mix, and that was an if for a long time, then he was going to be very high on the list. And once Steve Yzerman took over, I think Ken Holland needed some time to think. And he said something in his press conference today that several people told me was true, that at the under-18s, a tournament which finished a week ago in Sweden, he was bitten by the bug again. He realized how much loved being in the chair, making the decisions. I think he would have been a high contender for the Seattle job, but that was 2 years away, and he would have been 65 by then. So now at age 63, he decides he wants to get right back into it. And once he decided he was into it, he was at the top of Bob Nicholson's list. When it comes to coaching, I think that, as he said, it's his number one thing. I believe the guy who is at the top of his list is Dave Tippett, the former head coach in Arizona. And I think that Tippett is probably the favorite for the job. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Things can go right or wrong between now and then, but I think it's most likely Tippett as the lead contender. And I think the guys on the list, if it's not Dave Tippett, include DJ Smith, who's an assistant coach in Toronto, and Todd Nelson, who's an assistant coach in Game 7 tonight for Dallas against St. Louis. Todd Nelson's previous job was the head coach of the American Hockey League Grand Rapids Griffins, who are the AHL team of the Detroit Red Wings. So there's a connection there.
So let's talk about how we go about that decision then. How much of this falls on Ken Holland as to who will be the next head coach?
I think it's his call. And you heard him say in his media conference that there could be change. I expect that there will be some change in the Edmonton organization. He said don't ask him his timetable, so I'm not going to speak for Ken Holland. But, you know, I think one of the things we've seen is, you know, Steve Yzerman goes from Tampa to Detroit. We know that there's one person going with him, Pat Verbeek, and a lot of the other top lieutenants in Tampa got promoted, so they stayed. So I think one of the things we're all wondering is, will there be much migration from Detroit to Edmonton? And I think some of the answers determining on how much change there's going to be are going to come from that. But as Ken Holland said, I think you're going to see change, and I think the head coach is going to be his choice.
Elliotte, change and fallout, I guess we could say, is Ken Hitchcock out of a job. What's next for him now?
Well, you know, they've said that they're going to keep him on. When he came over from Dallas to Edmonton, he had a deal with Dallas to allow him to consult for a couple of years. So they'll keep him around, and he will consult. The man knows his hockey. It's never a bad idea to have his opinion on things, and you can certainly weigh it as part of everything you're going to do. You know, the guy loves to coach. I'm sure if another coaching opportunity came up here and there, he would jump at it. I'm just not sure that there's an opportunity at this point in time. But some of us thought he was basically retired after the situation in Dallas, and he ended up in Edmonton. So I think we've all learned, don't count it out. He loves to coach. He was born to coach, and if the opportunity comes up, I have no doubt he would take it.
You love that. All right, Elliotte, last thing for you. Let's move past coaching. What else is kind of on the docket when you are talking about Ken Holland and this organization? What are the moves that need to be made?
Well, I think one of the things they're going to have to do is they're going to have to find a goalie. They have Koskinen extended for 3 more years, a move that was made before Holland was hired, but that's not going to be enough. They're going to have to find some other goaltenders. The goaltending market will be interesting this offseason. Robin Leonard's an unrestricted free agent. I expect the Islanders to try to re-sign him. Peter Mrazek is an unrestricted free agent. You know, Carolina is an interesting organization. They've got a lot of contracts that have to be dealt with whenever their season is over, on and off the ice. I'm curious to see what they're going to do. Ken Holland had Peter Mrazek in Detroit, so he knows him well. But I do think the number one thing that they're going to have to do is find a goaltender. I think the other thing I'm curious about, you know, Ken Holland said today that they want to compete for the playoffs next year, but he also said they want to compete for the playoffs every year. I think there were a number of contenders who told the Oilers this is not going to be a fast process there. They have some salary cap concerns, and they're going to have to take it a bit slower than they maybe like it. I'm curious to see if they're going to buy out anyone to open up some of that room and to send a message that things are going to be different. I think those are going to be two of the biggest roster questions we see from the Oilers over the next little while.
Elliotte, I know it's been a busy day. Thanks so much for a few minutes.
All right, guys, my pleasure. Have a great night.